what has happened here? How did black people come to St. Vincent? This is of interest. During the days of slavery, a ship sunk between Bequia and the St. Vincent. And the Africans swam ashore, the men. They were kindly received by the Caribs. Intermarriage started. And as an English woman told me, this is no joke, he said, you black men, we don't want you in England because if you get a chance, you turn the whole of England black. And that's the reason why the whites don't like black people. You would soon turn them as how God said people should be. Anyhow, the Caribs, the Africans, they intermarried. They married to the Carib ladies. And so the children from the intermarriage were known as black Caribs. And then those who were not intermarried, they were known as yellow Caribs. Later, the French came in. They were living in Dominica, they were living in Guadeloupe, and they were living in Martinique. And they tried to take over the lands. They drove the Caribs into the jungle. But what has happened? The Caribs fought. But they had no guns. They just used their bow and arrows and shot their way however they could. But something came after. The English came in. There was a man by the name of Charles I of England. He started giving these lands that Columbus and others discovered. And it was the age when the Englishmen were hunting for lands, when they said they had dogs, sea dogs, Drake, Hawkins, Frobisher, call them. And so they went about trying to eat up the lands, looking for gold. So the English came in. There was a showdown between they and the French. The English took over. They got slaves. They start growing sugar cane, and they start getting all the wealth of the country. On this point, I want to tell you, you students who are going to school, slavery was abolished sometime after. And it was not because men like Granville Sharp, Elephant Buxton, Wilberforce, Thomas Clarkson, and others loved black people. Slavery failed the plantation. They had what is known as economics as diminishing return to labor. In other words, so many slaves were being born, they cannot make the amount of money, so they said, look, better we set these people free. They were set free, but however, they were chased out to live. Black people had to live on the periphery of the lands up to today, while the wealthy men still occupied the good lands. They didn't have to provide them with food and so on. Then we have what is called as colonialism. And I'd like you young people to get an idea of what colonialism is. It is one of the worst things in the world. You may not know. It is like sharks and sardine. Sharks eat up the sardine. In the days when England had us in their shackles, we could not have bought from another country. We could not have sold to another country. We have to grow the crops they wanted. We have to export the goods to England in English ships. The ships had to be manned by English sailors. You may say, oh, things have changed. Not true at all. Every crop grown in the Caribbean today, we still have the plantation economy thriving well in the Caribbean, and our leaders are still blind to it. No wonder when Maurice Bishop tried to do something better, they got down on him. And so he lost his life. But, sorry to say so, yet I'm glad. To me, he was a friend of mine, a lawyer. And we met many times, we spoke. But I find that man a very good leader, a great man, and I'll ever say he was good. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to finish now. And I want to tell you about a few of our political leaders. One of the first one who came on the stage was George A. McIntosh. McIntosh fought. But what has happened? Okay, I'm going to finish. You see, when people invite you to the house to eat and they start to eat, they say you're greedy. Okay. McIntosh started, right? And he improved. He had what you call the St. Vincent Workmen Association. After McIntosh came off the scene, there was a man who was connected to Uriah Buzz Butler. Nobody mentioned him. In Trinidad. Butler is the man. Eric Williams got something from Butler. And Butler started, Joshua came over and he picked up from McIntosh. But Joshua was a man who was arrested. He was imprisoned. He was charged for treason. Who defended him? He was defended by Milton Cato. Later, Joshua started what you call the People's Political Party. Joshua was not a statesman, but he was a politician. He was a man of roots, and so he had the people with him in a short time. Cato, on the other hand, was a statesman, not a politician, and so he had the middle class. He had both got a bit from both all the sectors of the country. Anyhow, these men were there and the country moved on. Joshua died just last year. Cato is still alive. Today we have son Mitchell. Mitchell has what you call, his party is known as the NDP, National Democratic Party. Mitchell has been doing a lot. And today, he is a man in whose hands, in his hands, is rested the unity of the Caribbean. Do you know what has happened? Grenadans can walk into St. Vincent if you don't have a passport. That's how we are generous. Do you know that? You don't know that? You don't need a passport to go to St. Vincent. Right? Let me tell you what happened in 1984 when I was at home. Okay. I like you for that. When you don't want something, get rid of it. However, I am through. I thank you for your time. And I'll say this, stony is the road we trod, bitter and chastening rod. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on our way. You and I are Caribbean people. Let's stick together, do our best to develop the Caribbean.
I like him. Got a sense of humor. I could listen to him for the evening. Could you? You see, while Brother Brown was speaking, I wanted to ask you what he really came here for this evening. You know, some people would go and they'll sit for the entire evening. They'll listen to Louis Farrakhan speak. And do you know that song by Wizard, We Ain't Going Home Till Morning? Now, if it was party time, and Brother Brown cut the party short, you'll be mad with him, right? I think that's a problem. We have too much as Caribbean peoples. We have too much of a party mentality. We do not want a party to over, but when information is being dished out, we call for time out. He was making good sense. I was learning a lot Yes, mommy. Good. I was really learning a lot. One thing, though, in terms of the passport information, I think it was in 1979 that Maurice Bishop and Louis Z in St. Lucia, Seraphim, I think it was in Dominica, and somebody else, maybe from St. Vincent, came together, and they had what was called the Treaty of St. George's. And this treaty removed the passport restriction for people within these countries to travel freely. And I believe it's really imperative now, and this message should go to all the Caribbean governments, that it is time. If an American can go to Grenada with a driver's license, then I think a St. Lucian should come to Grenada or go to Grenada with a driver's license also. I think it's important. And my father was very much uptight in 1983. I was in Trinidad and studying when Trinidad slapped on a visa requirement on Grenadians who wanted to go to Trinidad. And as a matter of fact, in 1987, Jamaica still had that visa restriction on Grenadians. I was going to Jamaica in 1987 to a Defense Department conference in Jamaica. And somebody said to me, well, you'll need a visa. And I said, well, when I get to Jamaica, we're going to deal with that. But I don't believe I need any visa to go to Jamaica. And Caribbean governments got to get this message. And instead of them delving in a lot of stupidness and foolishness, what a lot of them are doing now, they need to sit down and really trash out and set the foundation, set the basis for Caribbean peoples to move freely in and out of the Caribbean as they like. Well, some of them used to say, well, we got oil and we don't want people to come in just like that. But oil can spoil. That's what we're finding out now. It's also imperative, if you notice, in Jamaica at this time, in comparison to the US dollar, at one time the Jamaica dollar was stronger than the US currency. Did you know that? Today it's 20-1. Some time ago, a lady and I were chatting, and she really was cracking me up talking about Guyana, but deep within it was burning me. Really burning me, because I believe that, and you could agree with it or disagree with it if you want, I believe what Forbes Burnham, he was just shafted. I believe that what Forbes Burnham started in Guyana, that Caribbean peoples must learn to feed themselves. They must learn to rely on themselves instead of relying on slavishly on pet models. And so Burnham was shafted for that. You know how much the Guyanese dollar is to the US? 103. Now that's craziness. And we from Grenada and St. Lucia and St. Vincent and St. Lucia and Dominica and Antigua, the OECS nation, we say, well, that ain't going to hit us now because we all right. We pretty much stable because the dollar is just 1 to 2 or 250-1. But hey, it's coming. It's coming, and it's very soon. Caribbean countries would realize that it's not just only CARICOM trade agreements. It's not only just one currency. That's what they're trying to do now. They're trying to do something a little too late, when they should have done it 15, 20 years ago. It's not just currency. It's peoples coming together as one. And then we could talk currency and these type of things. Brother Brown talked about the Caribs. I love to talk about the Caribs. I don't worry that. But one thing I remember of the Caribs in St. Vincent, you know that the French people genocided the Caribs in Grenada? Well, actually, the Caribs had a word called Coari Homan, which meant to war. I don't know how they got across messages. But when the French were fighting the Caribs in Grenada, they sent off a message to St. Vincent. Coari Homan, to war. We got to get these people, they want to wipe us out. And the people in St. Vincent came down and helped our brothers and sisters, the indigenous people of Grenada.